Hey guys, kia ora, whakalofa and welcome back to this week's podcast episode. If you're wondering why I'm in the exactly the same clothes and space as last week, it's because I have batched this episode. Last week's episode actually wasn't supposed to happen; it just happened on the fly, and I was like, "Oh, that's our episode. Cut it there. Let's start again." And this week's episode was actually what I wanted to speak about last week, which was creating healthy boundaries. And this one I actually did a little bit of research on before, because normally I just speak off the cuff. Like last week's episode was totally off the cuff. It wasn't even supposed to be spoken about, but it happened. And I love that it happened because it was incredible, if I do say so myself. But this week's podcast episode, Creating Healthy Boundaries, I was looking up online, firstly, of like the meaning of healthy boundaries, which is a line which marks the limits of an area, a dividing line, right? Sorry, that's what boundary means. So it marks the limits. So, like, what are your limits when it comes to boundaries with certain people? And then also, I found this, which is healthy boundaries are essential for maintaining individual autonomy. If you don't know what autonomy means, it means like your independence. Because I didn't know what autonomy meant, I had to look it up. So it was like your individuality, right? While fostering connection and intimacy. So, individuals with well defined personal boundaries are better equipped to communicate their needs. Something that a lot of people really struggle with. I used to struggle with this a lot. And sometimes it is like a work in progress. Express their emotions. I'm really good at this. And establish a sense of self within a relationship. On the other hand, a lack of boundaries can lead to codependency, where individuals may struggle to differentiate. That's an expensive word. Their own identity from that of their partner. Boundaries are vital for protecting oneself from negative influences. Absolutely. Learning to set limits on the demands of work, social obligations, and personal responsibilities is crucial for preventing burnout and maintaining a healthy work life balance. This is for all y'all doing the overtime when you really don't want to do the overtime and the extra workloads. Emotional boundaries involve recognizing and respecting one's own feelings and those of others, creating a space for open communication and empathy. Cultural and societal boundaries shape the way individuals navigate the world around them. These boundaries define the norms, values, and expectations of a particular culture or society. While cultural boundaries can provide a sense of belonging and identity, rigid adherence to them may also lead to exclusion and discrimination. Striking a balance between cultural preservation and openness to diversity is essential for fostering a harmonious and inclusive society. In the digital age, the concept of boundaries has evolved to include online spaces. Social media, for instance, blurs the lines between public and private life, challenging traditional notions of personal boundaries. Issues such as online harassment, privacy concerns, and the addictive nature of social media highlight the need for individuals to establish clear boundaries in the digital realm. Can I get an amen? Understanding and implementing healthy boundaries contribute to individual growth, positive societal, positive social interactions, and the overall well-being of communities. As we navigate the complexities of modern life, it becomes increasingly important to reflect on and establish boundaries that align with our values, needs, and aspirations. Absolutely. I know that was a lot, but I really loved that because it kind of just summed everything kind of up perfectly for me, because it shows the importance of having boundaries, right? It shows why we need boundaries, why we need healthy boundaries. So, my questions, like, what's your boundary? What is your limit? What's the boundary? And I want you to think about an area in your life where you aren't creating healthy boundaries, where there are no boundaries, that's really fucking with you, right? What is it? Is it with your partner, with your friends, with your family? And, there might be friends that always comment on your weight. I think I've talked about this in the past. I used to have a friend that would always comment on my weight or what I was wearing and the crop top. And like my mom would comment on that shit. So it's like, you know, is it that, or is it a partner that doesn't give you your own space? You're trying to create this boundary and they keep coming in it. It's like, no, I need this space. Or, they order you around, they tell you to do all the things. And it's like, no, like, I'm not here to like be your slave, low key. Like, what's going on? Is it work? Adding to your workload, making you stay late or asking you to do more. And you need to be like, no, actually, I'm not going to do more. That's outside my pay bracket. Is it your mom that always shows up unannounced, or siblings that always take your shit and they don't give it, they don't give it back, or, they're just disrespectful as fuck. And it's like, no, that's not okay. And low-key, whenever I say, like, speaking from a client that I had, and they'd be like, my mom always shows up unannounced, or my family always shows up unannounced. And I'm like, well, you need to set that boundary. And they're like, no, but it's, it's the way, it's the cultural way, it's the way my culture is. They should, parents should be able to show up unannounced. And I'm like, if you don't like it, it doesn't have to be the way. Yeah, that may be the islander way or the cultural way, but not to you. You don't have to take that on. You don't have to pass it down. There's lots of things in culture that you probably don't necessarily agree with, and you don't have to keep doing it just because it's your culture. Change it up, do something different, right? If you don't like it, if it's not good for you, then no, you don't need to keep doing that, because you're also setting an example, for your kids or for your siblings, for people to come. You're setting that example, you're allowing it. So, is it your auntie or uncle that always asks, like, when are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? It's like, hey, auntie and uncle, we don't want to have kids, so can you stop saying that? We don't want to get married, so can you stop saying that? Stop putting your own, projecting your shit onto us, or stop putting your time frames onto us, or your life, or whatever. So we don't want to do that. We're living differently. That's not what we want, right? Or is it your friend that comments on your religious beliefs or says inappropriate jokes? And I do quotation marks with jokes, because sometimes jokes aren't actually jokes. They're trying to dig at you. Like, it's not a joke. It's actually, excuse me, it's actually really affecting me, or doesn't make me feel good. Jokes are supposed to be funny, and it's not funny. So what is it? Think about the areas in your life. What is it? What area of your life? What's the boundary? And you know what the boundary in the area of your life is. So have a little think about it. And I want you to think about how it makes you feel as well. How does it make you feel when your mom or dad or whoever shows up unannounced? How does it make you feel when your partner doesn't give you your own personal space? How does it feel when that person keeps commenting on your weight? The disrespect, do you feel disrespected? And I know sometimes, people, we just put up with it. Like, sometimes people just put up with it because it's easier. Like, oh, I don't want to be confrontational. I don't want to make a big deal, But girlfriend, it isn't, because you know what's happening? They're walking, the person who did it, your mom who always shows up or whatever, they're walking around the world like nothing's a problem. They're living their best lives. They're good. And you're over there resenting them, being angry, frustrated, annoyed. You want to fight them. You're thinking all these scenarios in your head. It's consuming your day. It's consuming your life. You're just like, for fuck's sakes, and you're the one that's getting hurt by it. They're living their best lives. It's affecting you. So you need to say something. You need to do something. So think about how it makes you feel: angry, annoyed, They don't know that they've pissed you off unless you tell them that they've pissed you off. And you're like, yeah, but it's common sense. Yeah, but they should know because of my tone. Yeah, but they should know it's inappropriate. Yeah, but they should know they shouldn't comment on that. They shouldn't comment on my way. It's like they don't know what they don't know. In their life, it's acceptable. How do we know it's acceptable? Because they did it, because they said it, because they did the thing. They think it's okay to do the thing. They think it's acceptable, right? So they don't know. If you haven't told them, then they don't know. And no, common sense isn't common. So they can't read your mind, so you need to say something. You need to say something. And how do you do it? You need to say something. You need to let them know. You need to sit them down and say something, right? And I think there are different ways you can do this, but I think the best way, and the way that I've learned and the way that really works for me, is to set aside a time with them, to a meeting with them. I remember the first time I sat down with Mets for a meeting to, have a talk, and it was fucking awkward as fuck. It was weird being like, hey, can we sit down and have a meeting? He's like, what the fuck? What's going on? you know it might be at work. Hey, can we sit down and have a meeting? It might be with your mom, with your dad, with your friend, with your whoever. Hey, can we have a meeting? Can I sit down? There's something I really need to get off my heart, get off my chest, something I really need to talk to you about. When's a good time that suits? No distractions, no, not just me and you, one-on-one. Let's talk about it. And yes, you're probably like, oh, it's so intense. It seems so formal and this is serious. This is a formal and an important conversation, so we need to act accordingly, right? We don't play with my feelings. Don't play with my boundaries. Don't mess with me, right? So it is important. It is serious, so you want to make a time to sit down with them, and you can also do this over the phone if you feel called to do it. I feel like do whatever you think will work. If you don't want to sit down in a meeting, do it over the phone, a Zoom call, whatever you feel called to do, but you need to communicate. You need to communicate how you're feeling, what you have to say. You need to get it off your chest. And the best way that I learned to always go into the meetings, thank you so much to my mentors and my coaches for teaching me this, is to go in and take responsibility. Take responsibility for who you're being. Take responsibility for what's happening. So, yeah, they're commenting on your weight. They're saying something. And I think this is perfect because we're going into Christmas where I feel like you see a lot of your family and your friends and they think it's okay to comment on your weight, and work might be asking you to work over the Christmas. So, this is perfect timing. But sit down and take responsibility. It might be at work. Hey guys, like I know I've always, said yes to the extra overtime. I've said yes to the extra workload. I have done that. I've accepted all those things, but it's actually, it's taking up a lot of my time. I'm getting stressed. I'm getting overwhelmed. I can't do it anymore you know or if it's somebody commenting on your weight, in the past I haven't really said something. When you comment on my weight, I've just allowed you to say it all the time, but I want you to know that it's not okay, and it doesn't make me feel good when you comment on my weight, because what's actually happening is I'm on a journey to start to loving myself, and when you comment on my weight, it makes me feel shit about myself, and it makes me not love myself you know if it's your partner who's not giving you some space, hey, I know that I've just allowed you to come into my space all the time, and I love you, and I love being in your space all the time, and I love kissing and cuddling and being with you all the time, but I need some space. I need some space alone where I can kind of, rejuvenate, get my own me time. And I need it because me having my alone time is going to allow me to come back and be better in our relationship, and allow me to be a better partner to you, and allow me to really love and indulge in those cuddles and kisses and all the things, right? So take responsibility for who you are being. Let them know how it makes you feel. You commenting on my weight makes me feel shit. Or, when I'm working, it's overwhelming, all the kinds of things, right? And I want you to set the boundary. So what is the boundary? And be clear on that going into the meeting. You need to be clear on what your boundary is. Okay, so moving forward, I'm not going to do any more overtime. Moving forward, I'm not going to do any extra workload. I can't. I'm not going to do that. Moving forward, when you comment on my weight, I'm going to disengage in that conversation and I'm going to move away. Or if you keep doing that, you're not going to be invited over to my home. If you keep showing up unannounced, I'm not going to open the door for you. If you keep commenting on what I'm wearing, I'm not going to hang out with you anymore. So what is the boundary you need them to stop? Please stop commenting on my weight. I don't want any conversations about weight to be had. Please stop coming over unannounced. Please stop coming into my personal space. Please stop giving me extra workload, whatever it is, right? And then what will happen if they don't adhere to it? They don't do it. I can't hang out with you. I can't, what I just said, all the things that I just mentioned. What's going to happen? And I think it's very clear to stick to these boundaries, because there are those people, your parents or whatever, for whatever reason, they think it's okay. They're going to test you. They're going to keep trying, right? And you need to be firm on it. Hey, remember that conversation we had about the boundary? Well, you're overstepping the boundary. So I'm just going to remind you one more time that it's not okay to comment on my weight. When you comment on my weight, it makes me feel shit. I'm working on myself and I'm working on loving myself, and you're just really undoing it all, whatever. If you continue to comment on my weight, I can't hang around. You can't come over. I'm not coming to the family things when you're here. I'm not going to talk to you. You're not going to be a part of my life, whatever it is, right? And at first it might just be a little reminder. Hey, remember that conversation we had? But if it, next time. So, okay, cool. I can see that you're clearly keep stepping over my boundaries. So we can't hang out anymore. We can't talk anymore. We can't, and easier said than done, right? Like, you might be listening to this and you might be like, fuck, like I can't do that. How am I supposed to say that? How am I supposed to get people to sit down? And I just want to tell you, and I want to give you this encouragement as well. Like the first time I did it, fucking messed it up. I cry a lot, so I'm very emotional. That's how I express myself. I'm actually working through it at the moment because I'm like, sometimes it pisses me off. So I'm like, why do I keep crying? And I've actually unraveled why I do it and all the things, and that's probably a later podcast. But it might be shit. You might be uncomfortable as fuck. You probably will be. It's probably guaranteed that you're going to be uncomfortable as fuck. You might cry. You might fart. You might burp. You might scream. You might fight. There might be yelling and all the things, right? But it's your one step. Like you've got to go through it. You've got to go through that shit. Confidence is a practice, right? You've got to practice that confidence. And it feels like shit. Like my mentor Erica says, like it fucking feels like shit, right? And it's gonna feel like shit and you're gonna fuck it up. But you know what? You're gonna get back up and it's gonna get better and it's gonna be okay. It's like you've got to go through the shit to get out the other end. And there's so many times where I've fucking cried, I've fucked it up, and I've ruined fucking relationships. And sometimes, like, I'm still in the process of some of those things. But I'm good and I feel good and I'm glad that I did it. And I'm not sitting with resentment and I'm not fucking frustrated and annoyed at people because they're not doing what they should be doing, but I still haven't told them what I want from them and they should read my mind and all the things. It's like, no, use your words. Say what you want. Ask for what you want. Ask for what you need. Ask for the boundary. Say it, So yeah, it's gonna be shit. And if you need more help with this, I would totally recommend, please message me. I would be more than happy to help you. If you need coaching on certain situations as well, more than happy to coach you on it. But at the end of the day, the boundaries, like I said at the start, right? Boundaries are there for a reason. It's it's in your best interest to have those boundaries, to live a better life, to live a happy life. So yeah, that's the podcast. And thank you as always so much for listening. I think this podcast is perfect for you going into this silly season, hanging around friends and family. And, there's always, comments about weight and food and all these things. Actually, another thing I want to say, going into the silly season, if there is a certain family member that you find that, it's only when you see them in Christmas, it's not that serious, it's not that deep or whatever. You just see them because they're at a party, but you don't really hang out with them. Or even if it's you're at a party and you've met someone for the first time, and like you're not really going to sit them down and have a meeting with them, right? But you still want to set that boundary. Have some one liners or sentences that you'll say in those moments. If there's the uncle or something that always comments on your weight whenever you see them, you're already prepared. You'll get up, you're ready to go. What's the one liner? The uncle's like, "Oh, you've put on a bit of weight," because they haven't seen you last year. What are you going to say? Is it going to be please don't comment on my weight? Or that's a weird comment. Like, why would you say that? That's not really the first thing I want to hear from you. Please don't comment on my weight. What's the one liner? And then move on, move away, go away. And yeah, I find this a lot with the mahi that I do. I'm all about, loving what you see in the mirror as a plus size baddie, and that you don't always need to be on weight loss diets and all the shit, and diets don't work, all that stuff, right? And all the time in social settings, I hear people commenting on the weight, or, "Oh, I shouldn't eat this," or, "No, I shouldn't. Oh, I just ate a bad meal. Oh, but it makes up for it because I'm going to like fucking go to the gym for a million hours," whatever it is, right? They have these conversations, and you know what I do? I just disengage. I walk away. I don't want to be a part of it. And if there is space for you just to walk away, if it's an uncle you just see because he's at every other function, but you don't want to be, just walk away from them. So yeah, just the one liners, gear yourself up. Gear yourself up. Is that a word? Yeah. Like, be prepared. If you know that the uncle or the auntie or whatever always comments on something, be prepared for the one liners of, "Hey, actually, I don't want to talk about that. It's not something I'm interested in discussing with you," whatever it may be, whatever it may be. But yeah, I could talk about this all day long. I hope you're good. I love you. Ka kite koikia.